Hi, welcome to my channel. My name is Annie and this is Unity Consciousness. We're going to be discussing this week's energy beginning today, the 5th of April, and through the weekend. Before we get into this week's energy, I just want to review on Saturday, this past weekend, Mercury moved into Aries. And with that planetary movement, we now have several planets and asteroids in the sign of Aries. So that would be the Sun, the Moon, Mercury now, Venus, Chiron, Ceres, and Eris are all in Aries. That means with the assertiveness of Aries, things are going to be moving pretty quickly. As well, it's going to pick up in the second half of the month because we have a new moon in Aries on the 11th. So from that point forward, it's going to even become more rapid. So for those of you who have an opportunity to do so, if there's any lag or downtime, please get lots of rest. It's important that we rest because we're coming into eclipse season as well as a very energetic period of time. So be mindful of that. So also this week, not a whole lot. Of course, the planets are always on the move. Of course, there's always conjunctions and those sort of things. But this week, while there's relatively low remarkable aspects, there are some very important aspects to discuss. And the biggest ones, in my opinion, are the Mars hitting the activation points for eclipses. Earlier in the week, it's going to activate the eclipse point that we're going to be hitting on the 10th of June. That is going to be an eclipse in Gemini. So those of you folks that are Gemini, rising, Sun, Venus, you will be wanting to pay attention to this eclipse season, as well as those that are Sagittarians, because there's also an eclipse coming up in Sagittarius as well. This all has to do with your North Node of the collective. So there's a lot going on. As we've talked about before, Mars is it's the ruler of Aries, but it's also the planet of activation and motivation. It can be aggressive, it can be very assertive, but most importantly, like I said, it's activating these particular points. Again, one that's to come and one that has passed. So let's start on the first activation point early in the week. So we are going to be getting some foreshadowing from the universe, and all of its mighty wisdom will be providing us some foreshadowing as far as what's to come. What that eclipse on June 10th, what does that mean to us? What are we going to be ushering in? What is that new intention going to be at that period of time? What do we need to be focusing on at that time? So this week is all about the foreshadowing. When Mars connects over that eclipse point from June 10th in Gemini, as Mars passes over that this week, it is going to activate that point. It is going to activate us to start thinking about the things that will be new beginnings for us, and that's important. So pay attention to the things that are being brought to your attention this week that may not be absolutely clear just yet, but the universe is giving you some insight so that we can prepare ourselves. The beauty of eclipses they can be very startling because they're going to come in typically in pairs of two, and the first one is going to clear out a bunch of energy, get rid of things that are no longer necessary in your life, and then the second one is going to activate various things, asking you to set an intention, which is this eclipse that I'm referring to now. So be mindful of what is in your field of vision early in the week. Be mindful of that which you will be your focus will be drawn on late in May and early in June. This is going to give you some insight, so maybe those eclipses won't be as jarring. It's something that you will be able to reflect on this week and say, hey, I remember that there was some activation that occurred this week relative to the second eclipse that will be occurring in Gemini on, I believe it is June the 10th. So anyway, that's early in the week. And then we have on Friday the 9th, Mars is going to square Neptune, pesky Mars. Although Mars energy is wonderful. Mars energy will motivate you. It allows you to capture the motivation and the activation necessary to just crush any target you have. It allows us to take the action necessary to resolve things. It's the purpose of the very high vibrational purpose of Mars is something that can be very, very, very fulfilling. Anyway, the Mars, which is in Gemini on Friday, will square Neptune, which is in Pisces. And a low vibe manifestation of this type of energy could be emotional outbursts that are very scattered. Again, Gemini is, a lot of things going on at once. And then you've got your Piscean energy, which can be very intuitive, but it also can be very emotional. So just be mindful on Friday of your emotional self and any wants you may have to speak out or act out that are very scattered, and they're just seemingly from nowhere. Now, a high vibrational use of this energy would be to use it for spiritual motivation. And knowing that Mars is also hitting on some of these eclipse points, and also the North Node is in Gemini for the collective, this energy would be really, 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 really good for spiritual motivation, for us to begin to root ourselves firmly in that North Node of Gemini as a collective, or keeping unity consciousness in the forefront of our being. Be mindful of illusions, though. Again, we've got Neptune, so you may not be seeing things clearly. There may be parts that are still hidden a bit. So just be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. And then again, I said Mars is going to be hitting a second eclipse point, and instead of going forward, we're going back. So later in the week, about the same time that we've got the square between Mars and Neptune, Mars is going to be activating an eclipse point that occurred last December. So as I said, every 6 months we have these eclipses. So we had a second eclipse on, I believe it was December 10th, maybe. Anyway, it was just before the 14th, I believe. It was before the Grand Conjunction. And there was an eclipse at that time. If you set an intention at that time, this is an opportunity for you to evaluate where you are relative to that activation. And keep in mind, when you set an intention for an eclipse, it's a 6-month activation. So we should be rounding the corner to home, or be certainly seeing some benchmarks for that intention. And that where do we want to take that intention to the next level? Or are we ready to start closing out some aspects of that intention so that we can set a new intention with the next set of eclipses coming up that will further that intention, or perhaps we're done with it and we're ready to move on to something else. So again, this week we've got the earlier energy of the week is going to bring our focus on the eclipse point that's going to be occurring in June. And then later in the week, we're going to be taking a look back on energy and intentions that we set back in December. And this would have been right before the Grand Conjunction, that would have allowed us to be mindful of where we were, set an intention that was rooted in the North Node of the collective, but also our North Node. So it's time to check in. Go back to that intention if in fact you sent one. If not, then go back to your calendar or whatever memories you have of that time. And what was your focus? How close are you to it? Are there things that need to be tweaked or changed? Are you going to be ready to let it go? Because I promise you, when the eclipse season gets amped up again, well, it's already getting started, but as that energy becomes more prominent, we're not going to be able to hold on to anything. Things will just be released from our grasp, released from our reality, with new things coming in that match our intention, that match the collective greater good and that of ourselves. So, how can we use this energy this week? Oh, there's one other thing I want to talk about. I've had a couple of questions, people that know me reaching out and talking about this very strange energy that's been occurring. And I agree. Last week was a very tough week in my world. Mars is currently what they call out of bounds. And Mars will be out of bounds until May 24th. What does that mean? It just means that Mars has veered beyond the plane of Earth's orbit around the sun. When this occurs, it intensifies that energy. And, we learned how to deal with Mars energy most of 2020 because it was retrograde. And here we are now getting a heavy dose of Mars energy up until the 24th of May. And yeah, these are, it's very Mars-esque. So there are going to be some things that crop up that come out of the blue that seem to be very aggressive, very assertive. I'm just not quite sure what to do with it, almost overwhelming in a sense. What can we do with this energy? What can we do to exist in this energy during this period of time? I would suggest that we harness this energy for mindful pursuits. However, be also equally mindful of people who are acting out in a way that is less than becoming. Aggressive driving, confrontations, people just these outbursts that occur from seemingly nowhere, or challenges that are being thrown in your field of vision. Just be mindful of others, most importantly. And also, self-care is very important. If you begin to feel overwhelmed from a lot of this aggressive energy, take time out. You can always call a time out and find your happy place in your mind spiritually, and get yourself back centered again before you have to jump back into life and all of the fun that is each and every day. Again, like I said, please be mindful during this amplified energy and assertive energy period of time. Be mindful of others. And I see that the sun's breaking out. I hope you can still see me okay. Also with this week and the eclipse point activations forward as well as back, if you don't have a journal, it might be worth starting just a journal, even if you have a calendar at home and you want to take notes about how you're feeling on a particular day. Especially now that we've entered eclipse season, it'll allow you to go back and take a look at this period of time and see what that focus was. Again, foreshadowing, very important for us to be able to be aware of the energy that's persistent so that we can use it to our advantage. Very, very important. Then we also have a new moon coming up, a new moon in Aries on Sunday of this week. I will be dropping a video very early Sunday or late Saturday that addresses this moon and this activation, which I will feel very strongly. I am a Scorpio Libra cusper, and we've got a full moon in Scorpio at the end of the month, so there's going to be some intense energy for me. So we'll discuss that more next video. But for this week, self-care, be mindful of what's going on in your sphere of understanding, and also that of the collective, because it's going to give us some insight as to how these eclipses will be taking shape. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time today. I hope you have had a wonderful holiday yesterday. If in fact you were able to celebrate that holiday, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a fabulous week. And please know, if you have any questions, post them in the comments section below and I will address them as quickly as I can. Otherwise, thank you. Please be sure to subscribe so you can get a notification when the videos are dropped, and like this video so that it will pop up in other people's searching mechanisms due to the algorithms when they get onto YouTube. Anyway, thank you. I hope you have a fabulous week. Namaste.